Welcome to Thursday Night Live with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper. I'm located in Oregon in the United States. Thanks so much for joining me. And we are going to be using the Woodland Scenery stamp set tonight and making a snowy woodland scene. So let's go ahead and see who we have on. And then we'll get started. We'll give everybody a minute or two to get in. And, oh, look, it came up. Let's see if it works the proper way. Come on. Yay. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for joining me. I hope everybody had a wonderful week so far. And for those of you who don't live here, right here in the Pacific Northwest, hopefully you got to see some of the northern lights that have been going the last couple of nights. I missed out, and they say there's a good chance for them again tonight. However, we have rain, so probably not going to see them. Anyway, we're going to make a card that you can use for a birthday card. You could use it for just a winter card, or you could use it as a Christmas card. And it's not that difficult to mass produce. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the Woodland Scenery stamp set is a 9-piece photopolymer set. There are no dies that go with this, so what you see here is what we have. And I'm going to use the More Messages die to do my sentiment. And this is a 1-piece die that cuts out a lot of sentiments. It does have a coordinating stamp set that also is just a 1-piece stamp, and you just stamp the stamp down, and then you put this down and cut out all these sentiments all at once. But I just want one of them, so I just want this one on the bottom. So really this cardstock is not quite long enough. You just need a piece of cardstock that is big enough for the hole here. This is the one I'm going to be using. And then I just put this in like this in my die cut machine and roll it through. And then I just get the one I want. Okay, I have a whole bunch already cut out of all the others, but I seem to use the same ones over and over. So rather than keep cutting tons and tons of the extras, I'm just doing one at a time. Okay, so let's get started. We have a card base of Pool Party, and this is a standard A2. So it's 5.5 by 8.5, and then I scored it in the center at 4.25. I'm just going to burnish that with my bone folder, and then that is ready to go. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. I also have a piece of the Lights of Aurora DSP, and if you have not seen this paper, it is so beautiful. And you get, this is a 6x6 paper pack. This is the piece we're using, and you get several of these. So I'm not sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know, maybe you get, I've already used several, so I'm not really sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyway, we've got those. But the cool thing about these is if you don't want to use this side, then this side is so neutral you could use it for anything. This is a wonderful pack of paper. Good for all occasions. Because like I said, your back side is so neutral you can use that for anything. Okay, so that is that 6x6 paper pack. We're going to use this piece here, and I have already cut that down to 4 by 5.25 for my card base layer. And I'm going to set this aside for now. And we are going to start with stamping because that's mostly what we have tonight. Okay, so I've got a piece here of the basic white that I cut with that More Messages die. And I'm going to go ahead and take some Secret C. And the Woodland Scenery bundle does not have any sentiments, okay? So I took a sentiment from Delicate Pines for this particular card, and it's going to say Warmest Winter Wishes. Now, you could easily say it's the most magical time of the year or celebrate the season, but I'm going to do Warmest Winter Wishes because I'm kind of keeping this generic, so it's not necessarily a Christmas card. And then I'm just going to stamp this in the middle there. I'm using Secret C ink, which coordinates with the cardstock. Okay, so we've got that, and we're going to set that aside. Now I'm going to go ahead and close this up for just a moment. And then we're going to take some Memento Tuxedo Black. And on this particular piece, now this is a scrap piece, it's 4 inches wide. The depth doesn't really matter. This is 2 inches, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to be doing some layering. So I'm going to take this, I think this is a bear, and I'm going to put this right at the top of this piece over to the right. Okay. And that's all I'm going to stamp on there. And then I'm going to bring in this piece. And again, this is 4 inches wide. It's about 2 3/8 inches tall. And then we're going to take the single tree in the set here. And I'm going to stamp this up here right at the top. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put this up here to make sure that where I'm stamping, I'm not stamping in front of the bear. Okay, so I'm just going to put this here and I'm going to stamp it right there like that. Okay. And then I'm going to switch to Secret C. And I'm going to bring in a stamp positioning tool because I want my house to be nice, or my cabin to be nice and dark. So I'm just going to take this and put this in my stamp positioning tool right down there in the corner. And I'm going to bring this over a bit, kind of like so. I'm going to put that right at the top of that piece. Okay, then we're going to ink that up with the Secret C. I'm going to make sure there's no marks on that stamp because I have had some issues with lint and I don't like that very much. So we're going to do this. And I'm going to stamp that a second time, which is why I'm using my stamp positioning tool. Okay. And now I've got that piece. Okay, and let's go ahead and put that aside. So we're done with it. And then we're going to take the sled from that set. And I'm going to put this, I'm using the black again. basic black, tuxedo memento black. Memento tuxedo black, that's the correct. And I'm going to put this down here about right there. Let that transfer really nicely. And then we're going to bring in some early espresso ink. And there is a stack of logs in here. And we're going to ink that up in early espresso. And I'm going to put that right down on the sled. Just like that. Okay. Then we're going to take our dark pumpkin pie blend, Stampin' Blend. Okay, that's going to be stubborn. Let's take off this end. And I'm just going to color in the end of these logs. You could use pecan pie, crumb cake, whatever you have on hand. And we're just going to do that. Then we're going to take the light lemon lolly. Well, yeah. Put a little light in the windows. I'm taking dark cloud cover. And I'm going to color in the window trim and the door trim. Now, if you don't have Stampin' Blends, you could easily do this with your Stampin' Write markers. And that is all of our, well, no, it isn't. Hang on. We're going to bring in a piece of the vellum. So Stampin' Up! Just reintroduced vellum, and it comes in 12 by 12 sheets. I've got a scrap here. So I'm going to take my embossing buddy from my Embossing Editions toolkit. I'm going to take some Pool Party ink. And what did I do with my, there it is, right here. And then I'm going to take the chimney smoke from the stamp set. And while I'm here, because I can, I'm just going to stamp several of these. Okay, we only need one, but while I'm here in embossing, I'm just going to do a few more. So I'm going to take the Wow Metallics embossing powder in the silver, and I'm just going to pour that on my images there. And then I've got that. Let's go ahead and heat emboss that. Got our heat tool here. Before I do anything more though, let's get our tweezers from our Embossing Editions toolkit so I don't burn my fingers. Now when I'm heating vellum, the embossing powder on vellum, I like to go from the back. I don't like to do it from the front at all. It heats very quickly on the vellum, and I can see it a lot faster this way so I don't burn it. There we go. Had a tiny little piece at the top there. So that's what we have there. Okay. Now, we need to trim one of these out. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut that. And notice how I'm turning the paper, not my scissors. And all I'm doing with my scissor hand is opening and closing the scissor. I'm going to go ahead and chop that off. It's in my way. Now, I didn't worry about this tiny little piece there because I don't need it. And I'm just going to trim this out. just like that. Okay, so now I've got my chimney smoke for my cabin, and I'll set those aside and I'll use those on another project because I'm making ornaments. Okay, and you can go back and watch that video if you missed it. It posted here on YouTube yesterday. Okay, so we've got that piece. Let's set that aside for a minute. Got all my stamping done. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to fussy cut this bear. But what I want to do is I'm going to come in from here and I'm just going to fussy cut down like that. I'm not going to fussy cut this part. And then that just gives me the ability to come back and cut around the top of this bear a little bit easier. So we're just going to do that. Okay. And now I've got that ready to go. Now I'm going to take, I want a snowbank here. So I'm going to take on this side and I'm just going to tear over here to my bear. And because I've already cut that down, I don't have to worry about tearing into my bear. And then I'm going to come in here where I cut this too, and I'm going to go ahead and tear this toward me. By tearing toward me, I get this white core. If you look on the other side, if you tear away from you, then you don't get that. And I want that to look like the snow. So I've got that. Now, ahead of time, I stamped the 3-tree image in the Memento Tuxedo Black, and I've done the same thing I showed you. I've already cut this down, and I cut this out so you didn't have to watch that, okay? And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to tear that toward me, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Just going to tear me some snowbanks, okay? Now I've got this center part. I've already taken care of this part, but I'm going to show you what I did here to do that. So I took my Stampin' Pierce mat and I poked a hole in it with the scissors, the tip of my scissors. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to snip around the top of the tree. And then I'm going to go down the side of the tree trunk. And then I'm going to come up through the back of my paper with my snips here like this, so that I can get next to that tree trunk. Okay. And then I'm just going to take and put my thumbnail along where I don't want that to rip. And now I've got that really nice snowbank and I don't have that excess white showing there. Okay, so my thought is we're going to do this. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and tear this down because that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I've got that. And then we're going to take this piece. And again, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to come in and cut down here. And then I'm going to cut this off right there so I can get to this tree a little bit better. I'm going to fussy cut that. And again, I'm just moving my paper, not my scissors. And you can be as detail oriented here as you wish to, or you can be pretty generic and cut a pretty basic bubble. It's all up to you and how you want it to look. So I'm just going to cut this. And I just keep twisting it so I can get in here. Okay. And I'm going to go down that tree trunk again, and I'm going to stop. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here to my cabin. I'm going to cut down the edge of the cabin, and I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to cut out this little chunk right here, my paper snips. And then we're going to go up and just cut the top around the top of the cabin. Like so. And I'm going to go down the side of the cabin here, and then I'm going to stop right there. Okay. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to tear this. Okay. And because I cut that, I don't have to worry about it. Okay. So I've got that. Now I'm going to come in here, and again, I'm going to do like I showed you on the trees. I'm going to put my thumbnail there, and I'm just going to tear. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to tear again. And now we have this snowy piece. Now to really make that stand out, we're going to take some Pool Party ink and a blending brush. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper here. And I am just going to put this down like this. But to ensure this does not move, I'm going to use my silicone mat. And that's, if you put your paper on your silicone mat, it's not going to slide all over. So we'll take a little bit of Pool Party ink, and we'll ink it along that top section right there. Okay. And so now we've got some snow edges there. All right, so we've got that piece done. Now let's bring in our tree piece. And I'm going to go ahead and ink along the edge here. And then along the edge here. Okay. So we've got that snowbank. And then we're going to take our bear piece. And this one's going to be mostly covered, but I don't want my bear to be Pool Party. So we're just going to take and ink a little bit right here. And I'll ink this edge just in case some of it shows. But there we go. Pretty quick there. All right. Now let's grab our Wink of Stella pen. I'm going to let that ink dry for a minute. And we're going to put a little bit of Wink of Stella in the windows so that they shine. And I'm going to put some Wink of Stella along the edges of the snowbank on all of these. Okay. Just so that we get a little sparkle. And lastly, we're going to bring in our Lights of Aurora paper, and I'm going to very gently follow these lines with my Wink of Stella pen. Okay, and you probably won't be able to see that, but trust me, in person, it makes a difference. Okay, so that's what we've got. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but it does make a big difference. So we're going to build on this piece now, and we're going to start with I'm going to put this piece here just to make it, just so I know where to go. We're going to put that down. And then this piece is going to go in next. And really this should go, I think this can go right down to the bottom. Let's check that out. See if that's how we want it. And then we're going to take our bear here and stick him in there. Okay, so that's about where I want that. I'm going to go ahead and put just some Stamp and Seal on this piece right here. And I'm going to stick this right under here where I want it. Okay, and now I can move these just so I can line this up on the edges. Okay. And then we're going to put this piece down. But I want these trees to stick up. So I'm going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of this tree so it sticks away from the edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing along this edge. Because I want that background to really show. Okay, and then we're going to take the rest of this, and I'm just going to run a piece, a strip of Stamp and Seal, and you can see if you have trouble getting your Stamp and Seal started, I just use my silicone mat to get that rolling. Okay, let's take our backings off here. Okay. And then we're just going to line this up here as best we can along the edge. And, oh, I felt that twist. Okay. So now we've got that. And then we're going to put this on. And we are going to pop up this piece here. And we're going to get some dimensionals on the tree here. And then I'm going to go ahead and run some dimensional along the bottom there. And I can pretty much use most of this here. And because I don't have dimensionals here, I don't have to worry about it being doubled. Okay. And I'll just put a little bit here. And hopefully I can move that because it's sticking up a little. I just want that at the edge there. And here. Okay, then we can take these off. And then we're going to line this up along the bottom. And the side. Okay, and then I'm going to flip this over. I've got just a tiny bit of excess here, so I'm just going to trim that with my snips. And this now is ready for our card base. So let's go ahead and we're going to add this onto our card base like so. And I'm just going to take some Stampin' Seal. And then we're going to center this up. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so there's our card so far. Now we've got our warmest winter wishes. And we're going to stick this up here. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab dimensional here. I'm just going to take this little section right here. Stick that on here. And then we'll add this to the top of our card here. And now we have a beautiful front to our card. Okay. Oh, don't. Oh, phew. There for a minute, I thought I put it on so it didn't open properly. That would not have been good. Okay, so for the inside of our card, I did not cut. I didn't have a piece of basic. Let's get that done. And this is a good opportunity to show you how I do my inside pieces. Oh, I forgot to put my smokestack or my smoke on there. Let's do that real quick so we don't forget again. So we've got that little chimney smoke piece that we embossed, and I'm going to roll a mini glue dot into a log. I'm going to put it on the front of my chimney, and then I'm just going to stick this onto my chimney. Just easier to do if you do it before. And then we're just going to stick that up like that, and then it will really stand out and look like smoke. Okay? Okay, so for the inside of our card, when I make my inside card bases, I make 5 at a time, or sometimes I'll do more than one piece of cardstock. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. This is 8.5 by 11 basic white. I'm putting it in on the 8.5 side. I'm putting it in at 4 7/8. And I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I'm going to take this piece that's left and turn it to the 11-inch side, and I'm going to cut it at 3 5/8 and 3 5/8 and 3 5/8. Okay, and I'll have that little piece that's waist. And then I'm going to take this piece that's left, which is 3 5/8, and I'm going to cut this at 4 7/8 and 4 7/8. And then I'll add this to my scrap stash for sentiments or stamp images or whatever. Okay, then I can take one of these. I've got 5 ready already, all ready to go. Now, so now we're going to take the Memento Tuxedo Black, And I'm going to stamp my single tree down here. I might need to re-ink this ink pad. Give me this. I think it will work better if I do this. Give it a little bit of padding. And then we're just going to put this down here. Yep. And then we're going to grab our early espresso. And I'm going to take the deer from the same stamp set, Woodland Scenery. And I'm going to put that right there. Okay. So now I've got a coordinating piece for my inside. I'll add a sentiment later when I decide if I'm using it as a birthday card or a Christmas card or whatever. And then I'm just going to put, I like to put one strip at the top. And we're going to put this in here. That's done. We're going to grab an envelope. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and bring back in my stamp positioning tool. I'm actually going to clean this stamp. Okay. And I'm going to put my envelope in here. I'm going to put my cabin down here. I'm going to double check to make sure I've got my top there. Set my cabin in there. Stamp wasn't quite dry. That's okay. We're just going to stamp right over the top of it anyway. And we're going to grab our Secret Sea ink. I'm going to ink that up. Make sure that's solidly in the corner. Ink that again. Okay. Oh man, I'm making a mess. I don't know where I'm getting the ink. Oh, right there. I got ink on my fingers. Let's get rid of that. Inky fingers. Take care of that. And then on the back here, I'm going to go ahead and put that trio of trees. And that will be my envelope. Kind of a messy one. Oh, wait a minute. We've got to grab the smoke here. And I'm just going to wipe this off. Make sure I don't have any pool party left. I'm going to take some basic beige. And I'm going to stick that right there like so. Okay. And there is my envelope and our project for tonight. Thanks, Tracy. I'm so glad you like that. I really do love how this woodland scenery pairs so beautifully with the lights of aurora paper. Okay. We will see you back on Tuesday night on Facebook at 7 p.m. And I'll be back again next Thursday night at 7 right here on YouTube. Until then, everybody have a great week. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that and then hit the notification bell so that you will know every time I upload or go live. Thanks so much. Good night.